Billionaire thoughts, bit up for lean.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams, but my account in overdraft, I'm about to scream.
Rich man greed,
A poor man prayers,
every man bleeds.
but look how God made us.
Too many losses, it's only right that we win. Yeah, I made a promise I'm never gonna lose again.
Yo, what's going on? This your boy SL550, and this is the N.G.L.A podcast. So, I had to erase the 25 minute video that I started because everything just went out on me, and I don't know why it did it. I was having a little bit of difficulties in the beginning, as you can see, with I don't know if it's the Wi-Fi. I don't know what it is, but I said whatever. I'm gonna just start it over. The part that sucks about it is I had to actually go in and literally restart the whole thing. Like I had to upload all the videos again, and it's in the way. I'm not even gonna lie. But we're gonna keep it rolling, and we're just gonna start over, man. Good thing is I wasn't like too far in the video. I was kind of just in the beginning, and I was mostly ranting. But man, listen, before we start, make sure y'all like, share, subscribe to the channel. I truly do appreciate it. I really, really do. For everybody that does tap in with me, even if it's just a few, because that's how it starts. That's how it's gonna grow. And I appreciate everybody that does tap in, does like the channel, and does support. So let's get into this video straight. We're gonna get straight into it with Jasmine Crockett. They talking about this whole Smithsonian issue. Also, Abby Phillips from CNN also was talking about this issue and slavery. And then we're gonna tap in with Davis Hanson, talking about this whole ordeal with racism right now in America. And then we're going to get into Jerome Powell and John Bolton house getting raided. So hold on really quick. Let's see. Right. So I don't know why, but for some reason the stream is acting up. I hope we can continue. I hope that it fixes itself. Oh, okay, hold on.
The Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, nothing about the future. We are not going to allow this to happen, and I have instructed my attorneys to go through the museums and start the exact same process that has been done with colleges and universities. What is your response to that?
You know, it is funny. My question to the president would be, would you say the same thing as it relates to the Holocaust? And the Holocaust did not take place in the United States. It seems like there are certain people specifically on that side that anytime we want to discuss what has taken place as it relates to Black people and how they took our labor, how they took our lives, how they ruined families.
Hold on, bro. Hold on. Now, what she's saying isn't wrong. But the fact of the matter is, these things happened 100 years ago. That happened. As far as, like, we're not going to exclude, the lynching and all of the things that happened during the Jim Crow era in the early 20th century. You feel what I'm saying? This topic is tough because at the end of the day, we know that these things did occur. The problem is that people are trying to move past it. White people are tired of feeling uncomfortable because every time something happens that involves a white person or a white and a black person, it automatically goes to race. Everything automatically goes to race and religion and these different things. And it's like, at some point, it has to stop. And the only way that it's going to stop if we stop teaching our kids to be racist, because that's how you become racist. I said this before. It's a learned behavior. Racism is taught. Hatred is taught. All of these different components to a person's individual self is taught. It's learned behavior. And the only way to get away from it is if we teach our kids that yeah, we this is part of the history, but this is where we are at today. Like, there are lots of black billionaires, millionaires, people doing great. Even in those times, there were wealthy black people, bro. Like, I talked about Greenwood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and how that was a whole thriving community of black people who were together. Because I believe that that's the real issue, is that, you know, because we're talking about 2025, bro. People are coming together on this whole racist thing when it's just not the case, bro. It's not the case. I've watched like many of videos, read books on, you know, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, and all of these different you know, people in history who have done great things or whatever the case may be. And unfortunately, bro, history is his story. And you're not going to get the all, you know, and when you go to school, you don't get the full black history. They don't teach you about the true fucked up shit that, you know, white people did to black people. But they also don't teach you that not only the black sold black people. Black people, Africans were a part of the slave trade, bro. They were a part of it, but like I said, they conveniently leave that part out and want to just keep blaming the white man when the black man also was a part of, you know, our ancestors' demise. And it's just a fact, bro. It's just a fact. It's just what it is. But see, they don't want to be, when you bring things like that up, like if I was debating somebody about this issue and I bring that up, they would, it would kill their whole argument. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't diminish what happened, but when you talk about reparations and all of that shit, you gotta blame Africans too, bro, of that time, and they won't. They won't. They'll just put up all of the things that happen in America, which is cool, bro. Which is cool. The problem is, when are you going to look past it? My whole thing is Jasmine Crockett wants to talk about, keep talking about racism, because that's how they keep the. See, they know how to play on the black community's heartstrings. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is. They know that that racism is it's like that undertone situation that is in the back of everybody's mind for some reason. You know what I mean? Like, because we have been taught that we came from slavery and we're less than white people and all of this goofy shit, when that's just not the case, bro. All of these things is a mindset. It's a mindset. And if you have the mindset of a boss, entrepreneur, a person that's going to go out here and thrive in the world, not just America, then that's what you're going to do. And you're not going to allow race baiters like Jasmine Crockett, Abby Phillips, Roland Martin, Al Sharpton, all of these different so-called black leaders or influencers who speak on behalf of the black community, who don't do nothing but talk and speak hope. That's it. That's all they do. No solutions, no nothing. That's all they give you. Like, if I ask anybody, what has Jasmine Crockett done for her state, city, district, whatever? What has she done that is positive for anybody? And I guarantee you, it won't be nothing. Same thing with Abby Phillips. Same thing with Al Sharpton. You know what I'm saying? They all greaseballs, especially Al Sharpton. He's a straight greaseball.
They never want the truth to come out because it hurts their feelings. It's kind of like when we decide to call a racist, such as these racist maps that are going through Texas. They always are upset when you just call them for what they are. But the reality is that we need to start speaking more truth if we are really going to get to the real power. And if we don't recognize the full history, then we are doomed to repeat it. And frankly, this is a guy that is trying to do everything that he can to repeat it. That is why there are so many people saying that if you wonder what you would have been doing during the civil rights movement, then the question is, what are you doing right now? Because we are literally living through a modern day civil rights fight, the fight in which there was a Texan who signed the Voting Rights Act into law because of these literacy tests and because of Jim Crow. And now, just the other day, what did he say? He wanted to get rid of mail-in ballot voting. This is a guy that wants to take us back. We knew that we had an opportunity not to.
First of all, when you look up mail-in ballots, it's been going on for a long time, but it was mainly put in place if due to people being ill or away and shit like that. So you was able to do mail-in ballots to still cast your vote. The problem is that Democrats use mail-in voting fraudulently to their benefit. Same thing with redistricting and gerrymandering and all of that. They used it to their advantage. Now that the Republicans are doing it, it's a problem. It's racist and all of this. Like, bro, these people are a joke. And she wants to talk about truth. Bro, all they do is lie, bro. All the Democrats do
to
is
go
lie.
back. In fact, that was
All
the
of them.
theme of a campaign when she said, we won't go back. She knew what he wanted to do. And I am here to tell you
She's
that
quoting
regardless
Kamala
of what
Harris.
he
That's
does,
crazy.
we are going to make sure that we are investing in sharing our history, our true history, our real stories, because there have been so many times in this country where they wanted to delete us, where they wanted to kill us. But black people are survivors. We are the ones that made sure that we got through the Underground Railroad. We are the ones that made sure that somehow we went from slavery to the White House. We are the ones that if it meant that we were going to sing songs that nobody else understood, we will tell our stories regardless of what he does.
I want to ask you about something that President
Bro, Jasmine Crockett is a fraud, just like the rest of them. And it's just sad. The sad part is that they are not a good representation of the black community. They are not doing any justice for the black community. And that's just a fact, bro. The Democrats are the ones who put the Welfare Act and all of these things. If you go, bro, just do a little bit of history on welfare, bro. Just do a little bit of history on it and understand like the detriment that it had to the black community. Because in order to like literally, and this went for all poor people, because it wasn't like it was only black people that was on welfare. Because it was white people, poor white people too, that was on welfare. And they have old videos from the 70s of all of these people who are on all of these people that were on welfare were talking about basically how they couldn't have a man in a home. Why? You got to understand, bro, there are people in high places in the government and they understand life, but they also understand man. Like they understand like the power of having a man in the home. They understood that. They understood if they put liquor stores on every corner, if they put drugs in the community, what that would do for them. Because there was a time when these type of things that she's talking about was prominent. But in 2025, the only people that are standing in the way of black people are black people, bro. And that's just what it is. We're standing in the way of ourselves, bro. And I'm a prime example of that. I'm a prime example of that. a nigga that came from the hood, that grew up in a single parent household with my mom, who grew up emotional, who grew up uh uh um who had opportunity but didn't have a father there who showed me love and supported me and my dreams and all of that. So you start lashing out, right? And not really knowing it, because it's not like it was a lot of these things aren't like you are purposefully doing it. It's just a reaction. You know what I'm saying? It's a reaction to what's going on in the household. So then you start saying, you know what, fuck it. Like, fuck ball, man. Like, even though I was good at it, even though I had opportunity in it, I started fucking up. Then you start getting in this shit. Then now you smoking weed. Now you skipping school. Now you saying, man, fuck school, man. School ain't teaching me nothing. School ain't doing this and that. Now you getting into, in our communities, if we ain't playing ball now, we want to be rappers. So now we rapping and doing all now in order to be cool, being black, you gotta be down. You gotta be, tough. You gotta be all of these different components that are nothing but negative. You know what I mean? And next thing you know, you start going to jail, and it starts out being dumb shit. You know what I mean? Petty shit. Then it starts getting a little serious. Now, next thing you know, you in prison. Now you doing real time. I'm a product of that. And I used to be the guy who was blaming, getting pulled over for not having registration and my car not right. I blame that on, you only pull me over because I'm racist. Because you're racist. You only pull me over because I'm black. Because I'm black. Because I'm black. Because I'm black. And it's like, bro, at some point, I had to wake up and realize that the only motherfucker that was standing in my way was me. And the moment I started keeping it real with myself first, being honest about myself to other people, instead of being in denial about being in a way, that was when shit started, I started growing as a person. Then I'm like, yo, when I come home, bro, I ain't taking no shortcuts. Fuck it, I'm gonna get my license, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And I started just doing shit. And I'm not like or not, I'm doing okay. I'm surviving just like everybody else. I struggle like everybody else. But the fact of the matter is, it's been 4 years. I haven't even been pulled over. In 4 years. In 4 years. I've been home for 4 years. I haven't even been pulled over. I have had no interaction with police. And I'm a nigga that has a jacket, was well known, during them times from police. Now, they get behind me, go right by me. You know what I mean? Right? Like, I don't even feel no type of way about it. I ain't on parole. I don't got nothing over my head. None of that. And number one, I just don't want to go back. That shit is whack. I got kids to take care of. I got shit to do. And I just want to be free. But we're the ones standing in our way, bro. We're the ones. You know what I mean? And, real quick, I wanted to say, too, that Trump, with this whole Smithsonian thing, he said how he felt. He basically was saying that, all it's doing is depicting America as if it's just this bad country in slavery, and like it's good for nothing, like, basically. But yet everybody wants to come to America. So something has to be good about America in order for people from all walks of life around the whole entire world to want to come here to America. And think about it, right? We've been here. But you have Africans, Nigerians, Mexicans, motherfuckers from Asia, China, all come here and they thrive, bro. They thrive. I'm talking about doctors, lawyers, owning businesses, all types of things. You know why? Because they put education first. When you see videos from China and they in the classroom, they doing engineering. They're doing shit that's actually going to benefit them in the world. You know what I mean? Working on real life skills in their schools in China and stuff. They take education serious. We don't, bro. We don't prioritize education. I'm not saying every single black person. I'm just saying that we don't prioritize it. We don't. And also togetherness. We're not together on shit, bro. On nothing. All we do is hate on each other, bro. It's been plain. I don't have no hate in my heart for people. I just don't. You know what I mean? When I see motherfuckers doing something like anything, I don't give a fuck, nigga. You was selling lemonade, nigga, out of lemonade stand. Nigga, I don't care. That's what's up, dog. Cause at least you doing something. You know what I mean? You ain't in the way. You know what I mean? You ain't, you know what I mean? You out here just trying to chase $1. I respect that. You know what I'm saying? But you'll have niggas just hating on niggas for no reason, bro. For nothing, bro. Our community is filled with nothing but haters. Like, for real. And when I speak, I'm not speaking on every single person. I'm just saying, I just seen it. You know, ask niggas, like, it was a bull, damn, fucking, Mir Fontaine from Camden, had some dope music. I fucked with it. I'm like, yo, this nigga hard. And I was asking motherfuckers about him. Like, yo, you fuck with the boy Mir Fontaine? Oh, man, that nigga garbage. He whack, corny. I know he not garbage. But you just see the hate in niggas, bro. You just see the hate. Anything good that niggas is doing, you know what I mean? Niggas just hate on it, bro. Now, let that nigga would have been putting niggas down. You know what I'm saying? Let him, you know, ran, you know, 2 or 3 blocks getting to it. Niggas would have been dick eating. Straight dick eating. That's what we glorify all the negative shit. Anybody doing some positive shit, oh man, that nigga corny, he weak, he whack, he ain't doing shit. That nigga come back around here, nigga, we fuck around and do something to that nigga. I done seen motherfuckers say shit like that about motherfuckers that's, you know, on. I know people that's that's in the industry. You know what I'm saying? And I'm happy for them. You know what I'm saying? Them niggas work to get to where they got. You know what I mean? But what niggas do, hate on.
Good evening. I'm Abby Phillip in New York. Last week on this show, a guest shocked the table by arguing in part that slavery in America can't just be blamed on one race, and that museums put too much focus on the role of white people who participated in that terrible institution. And now tonight, that same argument is being pushed by the President of the United States. Donald Trump says that one of the reasons for his crackdown on Smithsonian museums is, quote, everything discussed is how bad slavery was. What we try to do on this program is create a platform for discussion and debate that reflects the very real differences that exist in this country. It's what echo chambers in our society fail to do, frankly. But on this topic, it's important to say objectively, slavery was indeed bad. It was evil, the nation's original sin. And it is impossible to understand the true history of this country without fully grappling with slavery's impact. Simply because of their birthplace and the color of their skin, the bodies and spirits of black men, women, and children were exploited for profit and power. They were forced onto ships, bound by shackles and collars that ripped off their skin. One older man described it as iron entering our souls. Some chose to jump into the waters infested with sharks rather than feel that iron. Now, once they arrived on this very soil, they were forced to work by way of the whip, despite being starved, sleep-deprived, threatened, tortured, physically and psychologically. They were auctioned off, humiliated, fearful, and separated from their families and their children. Black women and girls were raped and sexually assaulted. Many were brutally murdered and mutilated. Now, this endured for decades, centuries. And even in the places where slavery was not legal, institutions from our banks to universities were built on enslaved labor in both the North and in the South. And for many of the white Americans who did not personally own slaves, they benefited from a caste system that concentrated wealth and political power in their hands. So, when we acknowledge the existence of black people who operated George Washington's Mount Vernon or the black hands that built the White House, we are acknowledging the existence, the perseverance, and the contributions of the souls that white supremacy sought to erase. Those people built families, they developed a culture. They were the keepers of the faith, cultivators of community. And they are the ones who deserve credit for forcing America to rid itself of the stain of slavery. Now, all of this information, these stories are from the Smithsonian's African American History Museum. And I share this not as a lecture for you, but as a lesson. America, the superpower, is largely possible only because of the superpowers of people who went lifetimes without the same rights of generations who were boosted from their backs. True history should include everything. Yes, the evils and the horrors too. And museums are supposed to be places that protect those stories, the images, the lessons, the very things that inform so much of our current state of our republic, from racism to poverty. No matter how painful, or in the president's words, how horrible the lesson. Now, just listen to one formerly enslaved man describe what slavery is like in his own words.
You know what I'd rather do? If I thought that I'd ever be a slave again, I'd take a gun and just end it all right away. Because you're nothing but a dog. You're not a thing but a dog.
We are here in the studio with our panel, Leah Wright-Rigueur. I was actually surprised.
Yo, before we start, I just want to say, I'm not disputing anything she just said whatsoever. I know about a lot of Black history. And what this does is, all of this does is, it's like they just want to keep reminding you so they can keep infuriating Black people. It's like, kind of like throwing it in your face. Like, nigga, you wasn't shit, nigga, fuck out of here. And it makes it like anybody who see, it's like when you see these movies, right, about slavery and shit, it makes you mad. It makes you angry a little bit. Like, you be like, you really be mad, even though it's just even though it's a movie depicting something that happened, over 100 years ago, you still be mad as hell. And then it start making you look at motherfuckers sideways, but this is what they want. This is what people like Abby Phillips wants. This is what they do. You know what I'm saying? They want to keep reminding you that you a nigga, that you ain't shit. You know what I mean? And instead of saying, like, my whole thing is not wrong with this Smithsonian Museum showing history. You know? Good, bad, horrible. Like, it's not wrong with that. Because the fact of the matter is, these things happen in America. It's just a fact. But I guarantee you, if you go into this Smithsonian, you won't see much, if any, about how Africans sold other Africans to Europeans. This was a business transaction. Doesn't minimize it, but it was a business transaction that Black people themselves were involved with. You didn't hear any of that in anything that she just said. And I showed you the video yesterday on this topic. Not only did Europeans come and buy slaves from Africa, other Arab countries did too. This was business as usual for African kings, selling off their people. They had alliances with Europeans where they had their daughters married off to these Europeans, and she was like some kind of weird marriage that was a alliance that they were with because they understood the business aspect of it, and you know, just bro, it's just what it was, and it's nothing wrong with depicting images of slavery or none of that. It's nothing wrong with it at all. I don't see nothing wrong with it, but it's not happening today. People aren't in shackles today. People aren't, you'll say, oh, well, what about prisons and this, that, and the third? True. I would say from the early 1900s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even the 80s, some of the 90s, right? Which is not too long ago, bro. They were literally putting drugs in communities, which in return had black people selling drugs to their community, right? And then they were getting arrested, so they were going to jail. The man was out the home, right? Remember I told you, the goal is to get the man out the home because they want the children. They want to mold the children. That's what it's about. They wanted to make angry children and more future ghetto um their future prisoners. That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted. And at this point, this history isn't new. This is old history. So if we're repeating it, right? She wants to talk about history. Jasmine Crockett was talking about history. History repeated. So the only people repeating shit is us. We're the only ones that's keep repeating the same thing since the 90s. I was born in 89. We still doing the same shit. The hood is still the same hood. It's still motherfuckers doing the same shit. And I love the hood, bro. I ain't even gonna lie. That shit is contagious. It is, bro. Like, but at the same time, I know that I don't want to keep going to prison. I don't want to be the statistic or the product of my environment no more, bro. That shit is weak. It's whack. And none of us need to be in there at all. And at this point, we're signing up for it, bro. Niggas is out here killing. Niggas out here spinning the block. Niggas out here selling hella drugs, doing all of this, and we're signing up for it now. They no longer have to come up with new ideas to imprison you, enslave you. None of that. They don't. They don't have to do it no more. We're doing it to ourselves.
To see President Trump basically saying the quiet part out loud, that this review of the Smithsonian is not about even just something vague about reviewing history to make sure that it's fair. He wants to make it so that it talks less about slavery. What does that say to you?
Well, I think it's an effort. It's part of a larger effort to both sane-wash and whitewash American history and essentially erase all of the parts and disappear all of the parts that make Americans, that make President Trump uncomfortable, that feel distasteful, that are a reflection of the actual real and horrific parts of our history. And I find it a little ironic. You know, earlier today, as I was listening to some of the commentary, my first thought was, wait a second. I wonder if the president has actually ever visited any of the Smithsonian museums. And then I remembered that in 2017, he actually took a tour of the National Museum of African American History and Culture.
Let me just play actually what he said during that tour. Listen to this.
I had the privilege of visiting the National Museum of African American History and Culture right here in Washington, D.C. It's a new, beautiful Smithsonian museum that serves as a shining example of African Americans' incredible contributions to our culture, our society, and our history. It also tells of the great struggle for freedom and equality that prevailed against the sins of slavery and the injustice of discrimination. The work and love of the people who helped create such a masterpiece is a testament to the legacy of so many leaders it honors.
So was it that he didn't believe what he read from the teleprompter as he recorded that video, or what?
You know, I'm really struggling to understand in a lot of ways, particularly given that the tour that he took with director Lonnie Bunch was actually a reflection of really the mastery that and really the care and the patience that historians, that scholars, that curators put into the Museum of African American History and Culture. It is not just about the horrors of slavery, although it tells that very important story. It actually follows this really brilliant model where you move through the museum and it tells the story not just of enslaved Americans in America, but also of the resilience, of the triumph. And in doing so, it tells a story that is very much about democracy and about a quest for.
I just wanted to say, right, you see how she tried to, everything he said was truth, right? but she had to throw out there that what he didn't believe, what he was reading off the teleprompter, as if like that wasn't his own thoughts. This is the shit that I do not like about Abby Phillips, Joy Reid, Jasmine Crockett, none of them. You know what I mean? Like he literally said what he meant about the Smithsonian Museum. He didn't say he wants to take away the history of the black people's struggle or none of that. He just said that like it only depicts negative shit about America. That's all he was saying. Like there's great uh people, black people in America right now. Is that in the museum? I never been to the Smithsonian Museum, so I don't know if it is. But the way they're talking about it only depicts uh the culture from the aspect of slavery and the Jim Crow era, maybe, and shit like that. Like the negative shit, which ain't nothing wrong with that. But does it show like, does it have the black billionaires of today in there? Does it talk about the good things that black people have been doing? Does it show it? Does it show that type of stuff? I'm gonna look into it. You know what I mean? Because I want to know.
Democracy and the way that Americans both built this country, but also the story and the narrative of like a truly American experience. And so for the president, I think, to just simply erase that and push that away tells it, particularly after praising it a few years ago, tells us that this is part of a much larger agenda. This is part of a much larger agenda.
See how they keep trying to say that he's trying to erase it?
That really, I think the country is just refuses to deal with and is really uncomfortable with.
He said as much by ending this post with, "This country cannot be woke because woke is broke." He says, "We have to have the hottest country in the world, and we want people to talk about it, including our museums."
That woke shit is.
Why is he
in a
equating
way
talking about slavery with woke?
Well, look, I think, let me just start this conversation by saying that my personal view is slavery was a reprehensible institution. I agree with your words that it was our original sin. We also fought a war to eradicate it and to get over it as a country. And that was a necessary thing that happened, and a lot of people died, and we did eradicate it, and that's a good thing. I think what he's asking is, in our museums, what defines us? Are we going to be defined by the worst moment or the worst institution or the worst mistake we ever made? Or are we going to be defined by what we've done moving forward to get over it and to become the greatest nation on the earth? My belief is that he wants to look at these museums, not because he wants to do away with the idea that slavery occurred, but that he wants to ask a very simple question. Are we going to present ourselves as being exceptional or not? And I think he believes there is an effort by some to continue to try to define us from our worst moment instead of to try to focus and define us based on our best moments, which started when we eradicated slavery and began to move forward as the light of the world. And so that's what I think.
Museums, that's what makes us an exceptional nation, is because they tell the history and the story of our country, and therefore, these horrible, horrific moments in our history. The original sin, as Abby talked about, when it comes to slavery, has we of course did eradicate it, but look where we've come today. And I think those museums, like to your point, make America exceptional. And in museums all around the world that document atrocities, whether it be, from Nazi Germany to eradicating slavery here in the United States, you have to learn the lessons of the past. And to deny it is to defend it.
I don't think he's denying it. And Bachi may want to comment on this as well. But I think what he wants to ask is a simple question. As we present our history, are we spending most of our time focused on something terrible? Are we going to spend more time as we enter our 250th anniversary focused on what this country has done to improve the lives of every single person who lives here? We are the light of the world for a reason, because we're an improving commodity.
I ask when I hear,
like, that's exactly what I'm saying. They keep saying that he's trying to erase history, when nothing in his post said nothing about erasing anything. He just was saying that, why are we just depicting America from this light of the negative, of something that happened over 100 years ago? Like, why can't we just look past that, and let's also add to what we're doing now, all the great things that America is doing now, and the crazy part is they want to bring these things up, but they're the ones who pushed a lot of the negative shit like that has been going on. You know, when you talk about the KKK, they were part of the Democratic Party. When you talk about welfare, the detriment to the black community with welfare, that was started from the Democratic Party. So then you got to ask yourself, when they get up here and they try to, because remember I told you it's about perception and projection, and they want to project onto Donald Trump, who is a Republican, that he's racist and the Republican Party is racist, and they when you look back in history and you look and you say, well, the Republicans were the ones that freed the slaves, and also my bad, I was like backed up forward, but and the the black people of them times voted Republican because that was the party that was for freeing the slaves. The Democrats were the ones who were trying to they're the ones who fought to keep slavery going. So it's so ironic that they're the ones that's trying to perpetuate this lie that Donald Trump is trying to erase history and all of this goofy shit when that's not the case at all.
You
That's
say
what they'll
that
do.
is
They'll try to flip
why
these words
I mean,
and everything.
the idea that slavery happened, it's hard to understand what we've overcome if you don't even talk about what it was. I think that kind of waters down the whole.
I don't think anybody is proposing that we ignore that it happened. I don't think that's accurate.
I think that the problem is that there are people, and Scott used the term a couple of times, and I don't think it was meant with any type of ill intent, but he said, we got over it. And I think that's the problem. I think that there are a lot of people in this country who believe that for some reason we got over it. I mean, the fact is that American chattel slavery is vastly different than what Jillian Michaels and others talk about when they talk about slavery around the world. I mean, the chattel slavery system that we had was extremely transactional. It was actually codified in law, and it was based upon the color and race, as you so eloquently pointed out in your opening. And so not only when you think about that portion of where we are, 26 of our first 30 Supreme Court justices owned slaves. The people who are on our money every single day owned slaves. United States presidents, members of the United States Congress owned slaves. Lehman Brothers, we're not far from Wall Street, owned slaves. Brooks Brothers suits that we wear owned slaves. So not only are we talking about the epicenter and the foundation of where our country was built, we have to acknowledge that. But even more importantly, and this is where I believe that Scott and I can find agreement on this issue. Breon and Megan Walker are two of my best friends in the world. Their dad was the first African-American S.G.A. president at the University of South Carolina, right? He was an exec at IBM, but he was one of the first, right? We're still talking about first that emerged and stood on those shoulders. I tell the story often about my mom and dad. My mom helped desegregate high schools. In Hamilton High School in Memphis, Tennessee, my dad shot in the Orangeburg Massacre. This is a part of my story. This isn't some faint, distant history. Yeah. And so the reason I bring that up is because I think that American exceptionalism talks about the fact that Black folk enslaved folk help build this country for what it is. Mm-hmm. They built Washington, D.C., but all of us are around this table. Abby, myself, all of us, not just Abby and myself, all of us are around this table because of the sacrifices and the blood and the sweat and the tears these people poured in.
I also come back to...
But look, why he's making a great point. He's making a great point. And you notice that he's giving the real, but he's also like agreeing with Scott in a sense. And she just wants to cut it off because anything that sounds like it's going to make people understand the point of view, then it's a problem. And like she don't like this, the problem with they don't listen. She's not here to listen. She's here to just keep talking and keep putting out the narrative that Donald Trump is trying to erase history, Black history, and he has a problem with Black people, and he's a racist. Like, that's just the narrative bro, it's the same playbook. It's been the same playbook for years now, bro, for decades, bro. It's been the same playbook They don't even change it up. And what do? They get other minorities, black people, to get up here and, yo, I need y'all to work. You feel me? I ain't paying you for nothing.
Why the focus so much on slavery when it comes to rewriting history? There's a lot of history that it's in these museums, but he's focused on one thing, and that is that there's too much slavery being mentioned in the United States of America. That's very odd, Batia, honestly.
So I want to start by saying I actually agree with everything that's been said, and I loved your opening, and so I offer these comments very humbly because it's an honor to be.
Like, I hate the fact, like, you see how even when Scott started talking and when she started talking, you see how uncomfortable it is? You see how uncomfortable they are? Even though they had nothing to do with slavery, nothing to do with it whatsoever, but look how uncomfortable she is. And she has to make this this disclaimer before she even gives her thought about this issue. Yes, it's a tough issue, but why? Like, this is what all of these black commentators do, bro. They just want to keep pushing it. Don't forget about racism. Don't forget about racist. Don't forget about slavery. Don't forget it. It happened. Remember? Did you remember? Like, bro, shut the fuck up, bro. Like, nobody is waking up like, yo, slavery really got me pissed today. I can't go to work. Oh, slavery really's got me upset today. Like, you know, I'm not talking to none of my white friends. Like, bro, people don't even be talking about this shit because it's something that people, you know, people get the knowledge. People get the knowledge and they keep it in their memory bank, bro. So when they go out in life and they see things, you know, even things that were built, things that were, you know, that laws and things that have changed, or whatever the case may be, you understand the history of it. That's what it's there for you to understand, you know, how to navigate through the world when you're going through, you know, to different places. Like, if you're going to Mississippi or Alabama, in certain places, you might run across this type of thing because the South was for slavery. You know what I mean? So that might be a place that you go to in certain parts where it's still racist. You know what I mean? In certain parts. You know what I mean? Like, but to keep trying to put it like that's what's going on today is crazy.
This conversation, which is very solemn, and I think we all understand that, and we are all looking for the common ground here. And so what I'm about to say, I don't mean in any way to negate that tone. But starting around 2011, 2012, sociologists started to notice a shift in white liberal opinion polling to where white progressives became more extreme in their views on race than Black and Hispanic Americans. And they called this, the sociologists called it the Great Awakening. And when they postulated, where did this come from? Why did white progressives suddenly start obsessing over race in a way that was actually far to the left of where Hispanic and Black Americans were on this issue? They found that the media had shifted radically how it talked about these issues. So for example, in 2010, the words white supremacy were mentioned 75 times in the Washington Post and the New York Times.
But the media is different from museums.
In 2020, the words white supremacy were mentioned 700 times in the Washington Post and the New York Times and 2,400 times in NPR. The word racism 4,000 times in 2020. The words white and racial privilege from 2013 to 2019 grew by 1,500% in the New York Times and the Washington Post. And the word slavery itself exponentially skyrocketed as a percentage of words. I'm offering this only to suggest.
I understand. I'm just wondering what do you think is the problem with talking about slavery, white supremacy, racism, et cetera?
So the point I'm trying to make here is that liberals will say, well, this is a reflection of reality, but of course it isn't. This is a reflection of a newfound obsession that was driven by the media, and that doesn't reflect either the moral evil of these things or the historical accuracy.
I do want to dive into what you mean by that.
Like, why don't she let her finish her point?
You don't think it's a reflection
she's trying to cut her off. Like, that shit is.
Based on
annoying.
what?
Well,
Based on
slavery-
the idea that those things don't exist, that
Based
white
on the
supremacy
idea
doesn't
that-
exist, racism doesn't exist, that we shouldn't be talking
Based
about it
on the
anymore?
idea, obviously all these things I think are evil, but there's not more slavery now to the tune
Yeah,
of
but I think
Exactly.
part of the problem,
100%
part of
than
the
there
problem,
was
Batya, is that in the
Respectfully, that's
hold on a
not the-
second, Bakari. Part of the problem is that back, not that long ago, in the 50s, the 60s, even beyond that, when there was actual Jim Crow happening in this country, people.
Bro, look how far she has to go back, bro. It's 2025. She's going back 60, 75 years, bro, to make her point. It's not that too long ago. Bro, that was decades ago. Decades, bro. It was decades ago. But to prove her point, that's how far back she has to go. Like, all she's saying is, this ain't happening today. But yet they're still, why are they pushing this narrative? And she's right. The media is the main ones who are pushing this narrative. And the main reason why is division. Divide and conquer has been it's the art of war, bro. We gotta cause division. We can't have people coming together. We gotta have the white against the blacks. We gotta have the blacks against the Latinos. We gotta have everybody divided. Meanwhile, all of these Democrats are still trying to tax you all crazy, take a large portion of your money that you worked for. Like, all of these just different components that are not good at all.
We're actually treating black people as second-class citizens. We weren't talking about those things at all.
But in
those words were
2013
virtually never mentioned.
But, I mean, you don't
so is
think
that
2013
better? Was it better then?
Hold on.
Or was it worse?
I want to hear what she said.
2013 is the
What she
same
just
as
said.
Is that back, not that long ago, in the 50s, the 60s, even beyond that, when there was actual Jim Crow happening in this country, people were actually treating black people as second-class citizens. We weren't talking about those things at all.
But in
those words were
2013
virtually.
Hold on. Because that's a lie. And I'm about to show you right now. Hold on. Give me a second. Like, literally, they were having these conversations. And this is what I mean by, like, you can't be believing these people, bro. They just don't have your best interests at all, bro. It's just division. That's all it is division. But I want to show you this video. I was actually watching it recently. Where's it at? Okay. Dang, my stomach all rumbling. All right, hold on real quick. Let me pull this up. Hold on, I did something wrong. Hold on. Oh, my bad. All right, here we go. Should come up. All right. Let's bring this right here. All right. So she said in those times that they weren't talking about this. So look at this video
And
right
I
here.
think that the white race in this country needs this revolution even more than the Negro race needs it.
What you say?
Go right ahead, ma'am, yes.
My name is Mrs. Elmer Lazar, and my husband and I are 100% for the Negro. I want to state that. In fact, when people say, would you like to have a Negro live next door to you, I said he has a perfect right to.
Do you have a Negro next door to you?
No, not yet, but I mean, I would really not mind it.
Object to it.
However, and I am for the Negro, I want to see him get ahead, but now in regard to what this gentleman said, where is this Negro going to purchase his needs, get his needs. All right, fine. And I want to address another remark to Mr. Meek. Many of my friends have been for
just
the
gonna show a
Negro,
little
but
quick
ever
portion
since
of
this
this.
violence started, they have turned against him. How do you go about not alienating the white man who has been for you
We don't
through
care.
violence?
We don't care. He
Who was that?
400 years. They have murdered, burned, raped, castrated, and tortured. I give less than a hootenanny what any white person thinks about this black man is.
Well, but don't you want?
Okay, so I just wanted to play that real quick. Because she said that they weren't having these discussions back then. That was a room full of white, black people that were discussing, what's going on in the black community at that time when segregation and all of that was going on. There were people. I watched the whole thing. They were, like enraged on both sides. Like you had, she was a white person that said that I'm for the Negro, the black person, moving next door to me. And, the black guy was like, we don't like, because in those times they were dealing with racism and all of that heavily. So they were, the black people, you noticed that they were more like outraged about what was going on in those times. And they had every right to be. You know what I'm saying? They had every right to be, because they were actually dealing with these things on a day-to-day basis. They weren't able to get certain job opportunities. They weren't able to move into certain neighborhoods and things like that. They were actually dealing with these things. So it's a lie that she says that they weren't talking. They were talking about this stuff heavily. They had the Million Man March. You had Malcolm X bearing arms against police. You had so many different people talking about civil rights issues in those times. Like, what is she talking about? Like, bro, they
never mentioned.
Abby, you don't
so is
think
that
2013
better? Was it better then, or was it worse
You
then?
don't think that 2013 is the same as the 1960s,
But you're missing,
right?
respectfully, and I've had this debate many
Do you
times.
really think that there's as big a difference between the 1960s and 2013?
I don't. That's not my point.
Okay.
My point is that the use of the language in present day, or the lack of the use of the language back when racism was apparent every single day in the streets of America, doesn't reflect really anything except perhaps a better awareness of the reality that we live in as a country.
That's not the point.
Do you think the country was more racist in 2013?
That's not the point.
I didn't say anything about whether the country was more racist
point
now.
is we're missing the forest for the trees. Because what you have to realize is that the remnants of slavery that emerged through black codes, which, were enforced by what is modern day police, what you're talking about in Jim Crow, what you're talking about in the civil rights movement, those fights, they weren't even 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. When you talk about George Elmore and everything he gave up so that African Americans could vote in the primary system, when you talk about Harry and Eliza Briggs, who actually were the foundation for Brown versus the Board of Education, when you're talking about Sarah Mae Fleming, who sat down on a bus before Rosa Parks, you're talking about the foundation of where we are today, and you see those remnants of injustice even as we sit here today. You have a quarter of shame in South Carolina. Scott just was in South Carolina along the I-95 corridor where black and brown kids go to school. Their heating and air don't work. You have hospitals that are shut down. You have redlining that affect black people today. You have USDA's, right? The Farm Subsidy Program, which wasn't allocating funds to black people. So yes, although you might want to say, and one of the most amazing things about Barack Obama was that we believed we were in this post-racial society. We are not. And so my point to you is that every ounce of change that we've ever had in this country has been because black blood flowed through the streets. You don't have the 64-65 Voting Rights Act without the Edmund Pettus Bridge. You don't have the Voting Rights Act. You don't have Fair Housing Act without King being assassinated. We don't even take the Confederate flag down without 9 people being killed in a church, right? We don't talk about criminal justice reform without a black man being killed in the streets. And so when we are articulating our views to you about the remnants thereof, I understand your point that we are not shackled or in bondage like we were in slavery. However, we have never deconstructed the remnants which still affect us today.
Well, I also want to just add, Batia, but Batia, just as a factual matter, I mean, you're talking about a time period in which there was the first black president elected in the country. There was the Mother Emanuel massacre that happened in during his presidency, which was last I checked, about racism and white supremacy. So there have been moments when we have actually correctly in this country grappled with those very things because they've been put on the agenda by our fellow Americans. So I don't understand the desire to try to avoid that when it's not as if it's gone. I mean, people are literally still killing people in this country because of the color of their skin, and suddenly we should just move past it?
I think we've had more than just moments where we have had massive leaps forward in the way we treat each other in this country. I mean, I agree with Batya. Where we sit today is vastly different than where we sat in the 1960s or the 1920s or the 1860s.
I don't think anybody's disputing that.
And it's not even close. It's
I don't know, but I don't think anybody's disputing that. I think it's just a
look how
question
she
of,
always try to cut them off.
do we need to just stop talking about it because we're not in
I don't
Jim
think
Crow
he's
anymore?
proposing that, but what I do think he is
I
proposing,
am.
and I think this is worth discussing, is that as we go into our 250th anniversary, how are we presenting ourselves to the world? Are we presenting ourselves as a country that is obsessed with our worst moment, or are we presenting ourselves as a country that managed to overcome our worst moment and have been improving ever since?
It's not about being obsessed with our worst moment. I mean, again, I think it's an important part. You know, last year, 17 million people visited the Museum for African American History and Culture. And I think that's an important number because part of what they saw was that this was a story about African American resilience. This is a story about community. It is a story about democracy and triumph. But it is also a story about two parts of the same coin that you can't have. And I think this is to Bakari's point, that you can't have that story of resilience. You can't have that story of expansive democracy without understanding how it happened and how we got there. You can't erase slavery and say, well, it's over and done with, and now we're not going to talk about it.
A quick moment, though, on Donald Trump.
Bro, who is erasing, like, the history? Like, who is erasing it? Like, this should be blowing my shit. I ain't gonna
Role
lie.
in all of this, because I think that kind of gets glossed over. I mean, the idea that the president is saying that he is going to have his attorneys go through the museums the same way that he did the colleges and the universities is, as far as I can tell, not something that we've seen in this country in a very long time. And it's also something that deserves to be pointed out as not normal.
I think it's not normal, but also, is this a good use of time for the President of the United States to be doing this? I think you saw that clip in 2017 when he was praising the African American History Museum. He was talking about his tour and the visit. I'm not sure what changed from now until then. I'm not aware of other exhibits or other like language being inserted into anything that's being shown at the museum.
What's changed is the backlash on the right.
Yeah,
against anything that has to do with race. And he is leaning into that because that is where his political base is. But we also have a responsibility to the facts and to actual history, not just the version that suits us in this political moment.
I don't think that, I think that the president is throwing stuff against the wall even when he tweets stuff like this. And I think that you have to be cautious about discounting people for their remarks, particularly when you have the president of the United States. But coming from the South where I'm from, you don't have to necessarily read about your history in history books, which is fascinating, because you go to the barbershop and people tell you about when King came to town. I mean, people actually, they slept on jailhouse floors, they smelled the bullets come by, and so you have this griot type of culture. The danger, however, is not with Donald Trump, who's an 80-year-old man. And this is what we haven't tackled. The danger is with people like Dylan Roof, who had as much hate in his heart as Lester Maddox and other individuals during that time period. We have an entire generation who will discount that history. And I prefer, and I think this, kind of to your point, progressives and liberals and even people to the right, particularly now, have gone to this point where we don't want to have the free flow and exchange of ideas, where we cancel people who have ideas that are different from yours. And I think
All right, so I can agree with that. We don't, and that's the problem. It's just that it's all about y'all are like this, they're lying about them and they're going back. It's just a bunch of going back and forth over tweets and bullshit. Whereas though if you seen that video that I showed, they were actually in a room together, sitting down, and it wasn't pretty. Motherfuckers they was having a real conversation about what was going on, and that's what, if motherfuckers like how they do they got like a little podcast that be doing like 20 liberals versus one conservative and stuff like that. Like, I believe that things like shows, podcasts like that are good to have. You know, motherfuckers can learn something, can, you know, take something away from it, and that's how you keep the history going, and that's how you keep all of that going. You know what I mean? Having them tough conversations, but you know, just flat out lying about certain things is just, I don't see the benefit of it. You know, like, I understand, I hear what all of them were saying, and even Abby Phillips, her opening, like, I didn't disagree with anything she was saying. The problem that I have is that when they make up shit like, oh, Donald Trump is trying to erase Black history, when he didn't say any of that in the tweet. Like, he didn't say any of that. Like, he just said that, you know, that basically it's only depicting just, so if it's just for African American history, like, there is, so only thing that you associate with Black history is slavery and Jim Crow era. Like, that's the only thing that we can associate with Black excellence. Like, I don't get that. You know, like I said, I want to look into like what type of things that they have in the museum. I haven't been there. I wouldn't mind going though. I would love to go, actually. So maybe I'll do that. Let's get into this
Hello,
joint
this is
with
Victor
Davis
Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. We've talked about the challenges to big multiracial democracies like the United States, India, Brazil. The latter two don't do very well, and because they accentuate a caste or a racial or an ethnic spoil system. The United States is the only one in history that has been somewhat successful, very successful, but it depends on everybody looking at their own identity as incidental to being American rather than essential. So why am I talking about this? Recently, Joy Reid, who was a anchor woman at MSNBC and let go, I think not for any other reasons because of poor ratings, but she has a podcast and she blasted collectively white people. And she said that they can't invent anything. And then she went into a diatribe about American music, that it was solely the domain of Black people. But what I'm getting at is we're getting very dangerous in this DEI movement as it starts to emit its death throes, as it's challenged for being racist, which it is. It's a racial essentialism. People who defend it double down, and they double down in a way that's very injurious for the rest of the country. So Joy Reid is basically saying that Black people are cognitively superior to other people. I wish this was an isolated incident, but remember we've had this controversy before about the president of Sacramento State, Luke Wood, who in his past was an African-American intellectual activist, as he self-describes himself, and he said he wanted to eliminate, that's a bad word to use given the history of it in the 20th century, eliminate whiteness. Again, no repercussions. Lately, a major writer for the New Yorker magazine, that's a marquee magazine among bicoastal elite intellectuals, she said some things that prompted people to look at her social media account. And a few years ago, she posted quite regularly about white people. What was very disturbing was she said she hated them. She didn't like them collectively. And then she started to get into some bizarre pseudoscientific stereotypes about white people. She said they were basically dirty and they're responsible for plagues in history. And she said it seemed like everywhere they were, they brought disease. We know that has a bad history in the 20th century, claiming that one particular group brings disease. We know who did that in the Third Reich. But of course, if she's talking about big cities of the medieval period in Europe, Constantinople, for example, or Paris, that had never been done before, bringing up to 1 million people in a crowded area. It hadn't happened in the New World. It hadn't happened in Africa. There might have been a place or two in Asia, but it was possible because of the classical tradition of aqueducts, sewage systems, and the importation of massive amounts of food to support an urban populace of 1 million. So she just seems to be as well historically ignorant. She seems to think that white people have all these advantages in this world 65 years after the onset of the civil rights movement. But as I said before, if you look at income, so-called white people are about 8th. Ethnic groups other than whites are doing better. If you look at hourly wages, it is true that on average white males make more than black males, but Asian males make far more than white males. So what am I getting at? We have zero tolerance when racists who are white say such things about other groups. But in a truly multiracial, tolerant society, people who not only attack a group collectively and stereotype it, but they do so from positions of influence and power, like the New Yorker magazine or a former MSNBC anchor, they can do a great deal of damage unless they're called out for it. And if we're going to make it as a society, everybody has to drop this idea of ethnic and racial chauvinism. And just because a person declares themselves a historical victim of past oppression does not give them a free hand in indulging.
Bro, what he just said is factual, bro. Like, and that's what it is. It's like even when you watch that joint, like you seen everybody was uncomfortable and they were looking at Abby Phillips like, you know, I don't mean anything by this, but you know, and they like so uncomfortable, and then she's over there playing victim. Like, what's so wrong with like talking about slavery and like just playing a victim, bro? Like cut it out, bro. I'm not a victim, bro. I'm not a victim of slavery, bro. It's like
Indulging in the utter and most vile forms of racism, which is collectively demonizing a whole group of people on the basis of their superficial appearance. This is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily.
Yeah, so I just wanted to play that because he was kind of giving a little bit of detail on Joy Reid and basically how they just be pushing, these, racial narratives. Like if white people, the only person I really see who, and he like the video I showed actually of, what's his name? Damn, I can't think of his name off top, man. But he be Nick Fuentes. He be, he be calling out black people for what it is, like, from his point of view, but from the media standpoint, bro, they just want to cause division, bro. That's all it's about. And the ultimate goal for them is to put the Democrats back in power, because that's how, a lot of them making their money. But let's get on to other news, man. It's racing, this shit depressing. Let's finish this out with my guy RJ Talks. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to his channel. Talking about this Jerome Powell and
It is Friday, August 22nd, and Fed Chair Jerome Powell bending the knee yesterday morning at Jackson Hole. The market erupting higher. The president elated. Also, John Bolton raided by the FBI yesterday morning, and major news coming out of Canada, folks, dropping their retaliatory tariffs on the United States, which is a big deal. We'll explain, and more stories as well from around the country.
A very happy Wall Street. The Dow is soaring into record territory after Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell forecast changes could be on the way. Listen.
Oh, no.
Risks to inflation are tilted to the upside and risks to employment to the downside. the baseline outlook, and the shifting balance of risks may warrant adjusting our policy stance. Monetary policy is not on a preset course. FOMC members will make these decisions based solely on their assessment of the data and its implications for the economic outlook and the balance of risks. We will never deviate from that approach.
Fed Chair Jerome Powell bending the knee yesterday at Jackson Hole, hinting rate cuts are coming, and a big cut. We reported last week that the White House was apparently no longer concerned with Jerome Powell, that their focus was shifting to Lisa Cook, who is this hyper-partisan board member appointed by Joe Biden, and it appears the pressure from the FHFA on her potential mortgage fraud tilted the balance of power at the Fed. Markets erupting higher yesterday, the Dow breaking through to new record territory, just shy of 46,000 on the Dow. Anyone who was worried about Trump's tariffs hurting your 401k or your investment strategy, all of the panicans in the press corps who've been screaming for months about tariffs ruining the U.S. economy, just completely and utterly wrong. President Trump elated after Jackson Hole his two major campaign promises, inflation and immigration. Inflation, all but solved now. The last piece was interest rates. The only lever that Trump couldn't pull himself is now about to be pulled. It's about to be thrusted down. In fact, Democrats not happy at all, which you got to wonder, how could you not be happy with rates coming down, easing pressure on American families, on their constituents?
Because they want motherfuckers.
They've been holding out hope.
Bro, this is the thing, bro. This is like prime example. Another component. This is what they want. They want to tax you. They want you to be broke. They want you to they want crime high. When people are broke, they resort to crime. You know what I mean? If motherfuckers didn't pay taxes and income tax and jobs were thriving and people were working, crime would be as low as ever and people would be doing great. And if people actually come together on these issues, shit could start booming in the right direction and everybody can start doing business together and building up America. But instead they want to keep everybody down, bro. Just what it is, bro. Like, what's wrong with Jerome Powell lowering interest rates? Like, what's wrong with it? You seen what the Democrats were pushing and telling you that the tariffs was going to cause a recession and it's going to hurt America. They're trying to hurt the one big beautiful bill. It's going to hurt the poor and this, that, and the third. They want you to stay poor, bro. Ain't that crazy? Like, you don't think that's crazy? They want you to stay on welfare, bro. They want you to do that. They want you to stay on welfare, bro. They want you dependent on the government. Meaning the Democrats. Trump is saying, no, listen, I think you should work. I think you should get a job. I think you should, build your family up. I don't think you should be dependent on government assistance. There's nothing wrong with that, bro. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a winning path. Shit, when Democrats are in office, motherfuckers need welfare. Niggas need help, some food stamps. Shit's so fucking high, you can't afford to pay all your bills and then put groceries in the house off a single income, bro. Like, I pay all my bills. My fiance is stay at home. She stays at home with the kids. Or I got my son, and I got one on the way. So we about to have 2 kids at home, with 3, including my oldest, but he big as hell. But she gonna be home with the 2 babies. I'm not putting my kids in daycare. I don't like daycare. I don't trust daycares. So I choose to work, bust my ass, and make it happen so she can afford to stay home and take care of our kids. You feel what I'm saying? But it's hard, bro. It's super hard to do it on one income, bro. Super hard. And I make decent money, but shit, I ain't nowhere near where I want to be at. But they don't want you to be able to take care. They don't want that. They don't want a man to be able to take care of his household off his income. They want it to be, they want you to struggle and tax you to oblivion so much that your wife has to go to work, you have to go to work, and the kids have to go to daycare and be raised by fucking Sally and Sue. You know, I just seen a video of on shout out to Antoine Daniel on his page. He posted a joint of a story where mom went to the daycare snapping on the daycare because they painted her grandson's nails pink. They in daycare painting her son's nails. So you can't even trust to put your kids in daycare. And you know, I seen another video where a kid, you know, had a black eye, got abused by a 50-something-year-old woman. Had a cut on his cheek and had a black eye, was swollen, damn near shut, bro. I would have killed her. I'd have went to jail. You know what I mean? But you know, like, this is what they want. They want the schools raising your kids, and they want, you know, mom and dad at work, you know, and the kids basically raising themselves at home. You know what I'm saying? They want the computer and social media and all of this raising your kids. You know, it's all about design, bro. It's crazy.
Hope that the Fed would resist lowering rates, at least until after the midterm elections, knowing full well, mind you, that Americans are struggling out there. Millions of Americans, working class Americans, unable to buy a house, unable to pay off their credit card debt because of interest rates, all thanks to the Fed not lowering the rate. It's just funny, right? The opposing party would rather you suffer just to win back more political power.
And maybe because he doesn't like him, but it's really because he understands
all about the
interest rates need to go down for
yes,
the economy to get better.
He's been clearly trying to strong-arm him into lowering the interest rates. Powell has held his ground, saying, again, we are the ones who make this decision. But we've seen a maximum pressure campaign on not just Powell, but also on his board of governors at the Federal Reserve. I mean, they are trying everything in their power to try and manipulate the system to get more Trump loyalists in, to have Powell feel pressure and resign, anything they can. Of course, as we've reported, you know, he has been warned not to fire or attempt to fire Powell. So this is now their pressure campaign around that.
So you've been doing some excellent reporting on that last part. Specifically Lisa Cook, who is a member of the Federal Reserve Board. Quickly, let's just listen to what the president said this morning about her.
These people are
crazy. Are you going to fire Lisa Cook, the Fed governor, over her mortgage
I'll fire
fraud?
her if she doesn't resign. Yeah, what she did was bad. So I'll fire her if she doesn't resign.
Explain.
This would be a really big deal. And I think to Kristen's point, you know, the president has backed off kind of his calls or the potential for firing Jerome Powell. His advisors have made very clear this is a bad idea. We don't think you necessarily have the legal authority, especially because you don't have cause to do so, which would be the only way the president would have that authority. And it would be catastrophic for a market that he really relies upon for the broader macroeconomy. Lisa Cook is a different story in the sense that one of his kind of top allies, attack dogs, Bill Pulte, the director of the FHFA, sent a referral to the Justice Department related to what he says are the improper documentation of primary mortgages, which he says or alleges would constitute mortgage fraud. The Justice Department, run by another, this section run by another very close Trump ally, sent a letter to Jay Powell alluding to the fact that they are starting an investigation here. Pulte says this is cause. And if there is cause, then the president would have authority. There's two parts of this that I think are really important. I'll try and get through them quickly. One, the idea of what constitutes cause is very ambiguous. And going down this path of firing a Fed governor is also going to have an effect on the market, which I think the president and his team will be cognizant of. The reason why they are willing to pursue this, whether just purely for pressure or because they actually want termination, is there is an open seat right now from a governor that left early that will soon be filled when the Senate votes to confirm Stephen Meyer, the president's top economist. If Lisa Cook were to leave, that would open up another seat. The president would get to appoint another official. If that happens, the president would have a 4-3 majority on the Fed board, the Fed governors. That's operational control of the Fed. Mm-hmm. That's budgets, that's process, that's how they do research. That also gives them control over the Federal Reserve Bank presidents, 5 of which, of the 12 on a rotating basis, vote with the Federal Open Market Committee on interest rates. This would be a major, major deal, and I think that's why you see the president so keen on pursuing it right now.
At this point, the real question is, will the Fed even be around in a few more years? That's the long-term question to think about, because there is a lot of chatter in the West Wing of the White House about ending the Fed after the midterms, especially if Republicans can maintain control of the House. They would need the House and the Senate to pass something to do this, and it's in the cards, folks. It is most definitely being thought about over there. Let me know.
Yeah, man. So I'm gonna end it with that, because he's gonna get into John Bolton. Didn't really want to discuss that, but I wanted to throw that in there. I really was the topic was about this whole slavery debate and all of that, but I wanted to throw the Jerome Powell loan, the interest rates possibly in there, because it's needed. It's needed, and Trump is definitely putting pressure on him to do it, and it's looking like it's working. My thing is, I want to end it with this: is that I'll be looking at, like, so I'm not biased. I'm gonna look at both sides. I watch all of these Abby Phillips. I watch Jesse Waters, Lauren Ingram. I watch a bunch of different range of things that's going on, and I just don't see what they're reporting. Like, they make it like Donald Trump is doing. Like, my whole thing is, if they say they told everybody that Trump putting these tariffs that he did put on all of these countries, it was going to cause a recession, it was going to hurt all Americans, it was going to make all the products go extremely high, and people are going to be not be able to buy goods and this, that, and the third. None of it happened. None of it happened, bro. He didn't lower interest rates because he said he didn't know what the tariffs were going to do. Cool, fine, understandable. Now that you see what it's doing, markets are booming. Trump actually is probably one of the only presidents, or a few presidents, who is actually forcing other countries to open up their markets. So you're not just selling your goods in our country and we're not benefiting off of it. No, we're going to benefit off of that, and we're going to open up your markets too, so we can sell goods in your country, and then you can benefit off of that. You know what I mean? So I don't see so far, and when it happens, I'll speak on it. But so far, I don't see anything that Trump is doing that isn't benefiting America. I don't see it yet. I haven't felt it. When Joe Biden was in office and when Kamala was in office, I felt it. I felt the effects of them being there and the decisions that they were making. They were bankrupting the country even more. They did nothing to help anything. Gas was crazy. Food was crazy. Businesses were forced. People were forced to, if they didn't get COVID shots, they were forced to basically lose their jobs, and just a whole bunch of shit, depending on where you lived at in the United States, especially these Democratic states, like the one I'm in. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you just felt all of the negativity. And that's the thing, that when you listen to these Democrats, like, you'll see Trump, right? Trump will say, like, when they were discussing, for instance, Jeffrey Epstein, and he's like, yo, like all of the stuff that's going on, the deals we making, and, unfortunately, what happened in Texas, all of these things that are going on, and you're talking about Jeffrey Epstein? That's the thing. And it's funny how they try to flip it on the Smithsonian thing, saying, oh, Trump got all of these bigger issues, and he's worrying about the Smithsonian, which I don't think he's really worried about it. I just think it's something that got brought up, and he just mentioned it, because he just wants to make America great, and he wants the depiction of America to be great. He wants people to love their country, but that's not how it looks. Why? Because the Democrats are pushing racism every day, so they got people out in the streets irate over, him trying to clean up D.C. and, get rid of, criminals or whatever the case may be. Just like everything good that he's trying to do, you'll see Democrats right there opposing it. You know what I mean? The dude, whatever his name is, Garcia, just got released back home. You know what I'm saying? Because they fought so hard for him to get home. They love illegal immigrants. So he's home. He's back with his family. Cool. I don't give a fuck. But I've seen a video of him and the police that pulled him over. He had passengers in the car, and they were investigating the situation, and they said basically he was smuggling. I don't know if it was illegal immigrants or what, but they knew he was doing it. And basically they got the call from the higher ups to let him go. So that's the corruption that was under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Let the illegal immigrants go and let them take all of the black community's resources, because that's what they were doing. It's just crazy, bro. But let me know. Do you think Trump is doing a good job? Do you think that he's doing, do you think that he has the best interest of America? Do you think the decisions that he's making is best for America? And do you think, with this whole slavery thing and this whole racism talk, for me, I feel as though that it's just a way to keep everybody divided, bro. Nobody's individually, because you got to put things into context. Nobody is individually waking up feeling like racism is holding them back and that slavery is the reason why they can't get ahead. Nobody is doing that, bro. If you're broke because you don't work, because you're not out here chasing a dollar. If you're homeless, it's because you either choose that you want to be homeless, because there's people that choose to be homeless. They don't want a house. They want to be off the grid. And then you got people who are on drugs and all of these different things who are homeless, right? But that's a choice. It's a choice. We choose to. I've done drugs. We choose to do drugs. You don't have to. There's people out here that never did drugs, drink, or nothing because they had the discipline to do so. And then you got people who are influenced. I was influenced back in the day. Start off smoking weed. Next thing you know, you smoking Black and Milds, and then you smoke. Then you pop a perk, and next thing you know, you popping perks, and then you sip some lean ones. It's so many things. It's and then it don't make it no better that our community does nothing but promote it. You know what I mean? In the music. So we made being fiends cool. We made killing each other cool. We made snitching cool. We made all this goofy shit cool. It's I'm just being honest. So now you see most of the young generation is fiends. You see all these little young artists, and look, I don't got no hate in my heart. Niggas getting some money, cool, that's fine. But you see motherfuckers they blitz. Motherfuckers blitz out their mind. You know what I'm saying? And it's not a good look for us, bro. It's just not. It's really not. There's so many other things that I can go into, but I'm not. We'll go into it in a later video because, I be having so much to say, but, got a little bit of time to say it, man. But I hope this was a good one. It definitely was long. Their first video was a little longer than expected. But I hope you got something out of the video today, man. And that's all that really matters, man. And if so, please like the video. Also subscribe if you're not subscribed. And definitely hit that notification bell so you get notified every time your boy drop a video. We'll be live tomorrow. We'll be spending some time with my son. Hopefully I can get later on in the day to go live. So make sure y'all tune into that, man. This your boy SL550. This the N.G.L.A. podcast, man. Until next time, I'm out.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams. I know niggas who played ball and gave it up for lean.
Millionaire thoughts, billionaire dreams, but my account in overdraft, I'm about to scream.
Rich man greed,
a poor man prayers.
Every man bleeds,
but look how God made us.
Too many losses, it's only right that we win. Yeah, I made a promise I'm never gonna lose again.